Alex had always lived an ordinary life. He worked a 9-to-5 job, spent his weekends watching football, and enjoyed the peaceful routine of his small apartment. He never expected anything extraordinary to happen to him, until that day. It was an afternoon like any other when he entered the market. The bustling crowds, the chatter of vendors, the smell of fresh produce, everything felt familiar and comfortable. Alex pushed his shopping cart past the fruit stands, his mind wandering. But then, something caught his eye. Standing near the entrance of the market was a woman. She was unlike anyone Alex had ever seen before. Her features were striking. Her skin had an otherworldly glow, her eyes a deep, mesmerizing shade of violet. She stood still as if waiting for something or someone. Her presence was so powerful, so magnetic, that Alex found himself drawn to her. He tried to ignore the feeling, chalking it up to his overactive imagination, but something about her pulled him in. The way she seemed to look right through him, the way her gaze felt heavy, as though she knew him. Then, as he walked closer, their eyes met. The moment their gazes locked, Alex felt a jolt run through him, as if a switch had been flipped. It wasn't just the usual spark of attraction. It was deeper, something more. His heart skipped a beat and he froze, unable to move. The woman took a step forward, her presence even more powerful up close. She wore a simple tunic, but it seemed to shimmer with a strange, ethereal light. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft, yet firm. "I've finally found you, human." Alex stood motionless, his mind racing. "What? What do you mean?" he stammered. He could feel his pulse quickening, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. The woman stepped closer, her violet eyes never leaving his. She seemed to study him carefully, as though assessing something deep within him. "It's you. The one we've been searching for, the one who bears the mark." The words were like a puzzle, each piece slipping into place without Alex understanding the full picture. "The mark?" he repeated, his voice barely a whisper. Without another word, the woman reached out and gently took hold of Alex's hand. Her fingers were cool against his skin, and he felt an odd sensation as her touch lingered on the scar that ran along the palm of his hand. He had never thought much about the scar. It was a result of an accident from his childhood, a small cut that had healed years ago, but the woman's touch made the scar feel different, alive almost. Her eyes widened in recognition. "It's you," she whispered again, her voice trembling with awe. Alex couldn't understand what she was talking about. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The woman seemed to hesitate, her expression softening for a moment. "I am Lyra. I've been searching for you for years, but the path to you was never clear." Alex was completely bewildered. He had never met this woman before, and yet there was something familiar about her, something he couldn't place. His head was spinning with questions. "I don't understand. What are you talking about? What do you mean, the one we've been searching for?" Lyra's gaze became more intense. "You carry the scar. The scar is a symbol, a mark of fate." Alex frowned, shaking his head. "I don't know what you're talking about. This is just a scar from when I was a kid." But Lyra didn't seem to hear him. She was lost in her own thoughts, as if something much bigger than either of them had just been set into motion. "You have no idea what it means, do you?" she said quietly, her voice filled with a mixture of wonder and regret. "The prophecy, the legends, they've all led to this moment. You're not just any human. You're the one who can change everything." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He had never believed in prophecies or legends. He was just an ordinary guy, but the way Lyra looked at him, the urgency in her voice, it made him question everything. "What do you want from me?" he asked again, his voice steady despite the confusion gnawing at him. Lyra took a step back, as if weighing her words carefully. I can't explain everything right now, but I've found you for a reason. There is something much bigger at play. Here, something that you cannot yet understand, but I will show you. You need to come with me. Alex hesitated. His heart was racing, and his mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. Could he trust her? Should he go with her? But there was something inside him, some deep, primal instinct that told him he needed to follow her. Without thinking, Alex nodded. All right, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I'll go with you. Lyra's expression softened, and a faint smile tugged at the corners of her lips. Thank you. You won't regret this, human. You will understand everything soon enough. As they walked out of the market together, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that his life was about to change forever. But he didn't know how right he was. Alex felt like he was walking in a dream as Lyra led him through the city streets. Everything around him seemed distant and blurred, as if his mind couldn't fully grasp what was happening. He had been going about his ordinary life just a few hours ago, and now he was following a woman who claimed to have been searching for him for years. Nothing about this made sense. As they walked, Lyra glanced over at him. Her expression was serious, but there was also something comforting about the way she looked at him, like she was trying to reassure him without saying a word. Alex felt a strange warmth spread through him, even though he still had no idea who she really was. They entered a quiet alleyway, away from the busy marketplace. Lyra stopped in front of a small hidden door in the side of a building. Alex noticed that the door had intricate symbols carved into it, symbols he had never seen before. Lyra motioned for him to follow her inside, and after a brief hesitation, he did. The room they entered was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. It was spacious, with large windows that let in soft, natural light. Strange devices and technology filled the room, many of them glowing faintly, but none of it looked like anything from Earth. Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. This place, Alex began, his voice trailing off as he looked around. Where are we? Lyra's eyes softened as she turned to face him. This is my home, she said simply. Or it was. This is where I was born and where I was trained. Alex blinked, confused. Trained? For what? Lyra didn't answer immediately. Instead, she walked over to a large desk and opened a small metal case. Inside, there were ancient-looking scrolls and maps, many of them covered in the same strange symbols that were on the door. She picked up one of the maps and handed it to Alex. This is my world, she said, her voice filled with both pride and sadness. And this is where you come in. Alex looked down at the map, his eyes scanning the strange land masses. He recognized nothing. The world on the map was completely foreign to him. It was as if he had been thrust into a story he didn't belong to. You said I'm the one who can change everything. What does that mean? He asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Lyra looked at him with an intensity that almost took his breath away. Your bloodline, Alex, is tied to the fate of my people. The scar on your hand, it's not just a mark. It's a symbol of the chosen one, a human who was meant to help us. Alex frowned, trying to understand. But I'm just a regular guy. How can I possibly be the one to save your world? Lyra smiled softly. You have no idea what you're capable of, but I can show you. You were born with a connection to something ancient, something powerful. Your ancestors were the ones who first helped my people, but they disappeared long ago. The scar you carry is a remnant of that legacy. Alex stared at his hand, at the scar that seemed so insignificant to him. How could something so small, so ordinary, hold so much meaning? He still couldn't fully believe what Lyra was saying. I "Don't understand," he said. "If my ancestors helped your people, why haven't you come to Earth sooner? Why didn't you find me earlier?" Lyra's face became more somber. "We tried. For years, we searched for you. But the path to Earth is not easy to find. We are not the only ones who know about the scar. Others, more dangerous beings, also seek it. They've been hunting for you too." The mention of danger made Alex's heart race. "Who? Who's hunting me?" Lyra hesitated before speaking. "The invaders. They've been trying to conquer my world for years. They've learned of the prophecy and the power of the Chosen One, and they know that you are the key to stopping them. That's why I had to find you." Alex's head was spinning. Aliens? Invaders? Prophecies? This all felt like a bad science fiction movie. But there was something in Lyra's voice that made him believe her. She wasn't lying. He could see it in her eyes. "What do I need to do?" Alex asked, his voice steady despite the fear rising within him. Lyra walked over to a nearby table and picked up a small device. It looked like a combination of metal and crystal, glowing faintly. "This is the key to unlocking your true potential. It's an artifact that has been passed down for generations. It will help you tap into the power that lies within you." She handed the device to Alex. It felt cool against his skin, and as soon as his fingers touched it, he felt a surge of energy run through him. It wasn't painful, but it was intense. His body seemed to hum with power, and for a brief moment, he felt something he couldn't describe, something ancient, something powerful. "You feel it, don't you?" Lyra asked, watching him closely. Alex nodded, his mind racing. "I feel something, but what does this mean? How does this make me the Chosen One?" Lyra smiled, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and determination. "This is just the beginning, Alex. With this device, you will unlock the abilities you need to fight the invaders. But there's much more to learn, and time is running out." Alex looked at her, feeling the weight of the responsibility she was placing on him. He had never wanted anything like this. But in that moment, something inside him shifted. Lyra was counting on him, and somehow, he knew he couldn't turn back now. "I'll do it," he said, his voice firm. "I don't know how, but I'll help you. I'll help your people." Lyra's eyes softened, and for the first time since they met, she looked relieved. "Thank you, Alex. Together we will save my world." But even as she spoke those words, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that everything he thought he knew was about to change forever. The journey to Lyra's home world was unlike anything Alex had ever experienced. The ship she had taken him in was sleek, made of materials that seemed to shimmer in the light, and it moved faster than anything Alex had seen before. He had no idea how long the journey took, but when they finally arrived, the sight of the planet was nothing like he had imagined. From space, the world appeared beautiful. Large oceans, lush green continents, and swirling clouds painted the surface. But as the ship descended through the atmosphere, Alex saw the truth. The cities on the planet were in ruins, crumbling under the weight of an ongoing war. There were signs of destruction everywhere, burned-out buildings, massive craters, and plumes of smoke rising in the distance. The once thriving cities had been reduced to battlefields. Lyra sat beside Alex, her face grim as she watched the devastation unfold. She didn't need to say anything. The pain in her eyes was enough. "Is this your home?" Alex asked quietly, his voice filled with disbelief. Lyra nodded slowly. "It was," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This was once a place of peace, where all species lived together. But now, it's a world torn apart by war." The ship finally touched down in a remote area far from the nearest battle. As Alex stepped out onto the surface, the air felt strange, thick with the smell of burning fuel and destruction. He shivered, but it wasn't the cold that made him feel uneasy. It was the overwhelming sense of loss and hopelessness that seemed to hang in the air. "Come," Lyra urged, leading him forward. "We have much to do." They moved quickly, avoiding the main roads and staying hidden among the ruins. Alex couldn't help but notice the strange, almost haunting silence that surrounded them. Even though he could hear the faint sounds of distant battles, the area they were in seemed empty, as if life had been drained from it. It made him feel like an outsider, like he didn't belong. "Who are we fighting against?" Alex asked as they moved deeper into the ruined city. "I mean, who's responsible for all this?" Lyra glanced at him, her expression hardening. "The invaders are not from this planet. They come from a distant galaxy, led by a ruthless conqueror. They have advanced technology that we could never match. They've been systematically destroying our cities, enslaving our people, and spreading fear wherever they go." "How did it get this bad?" Alex asked, his voice filled with confusion. "Why hasn't anyone stopped them?" Lyra stopped walking and turned to face him. "We've been trying to fight back, but our armies are small and we've lost many battles. The invaders have technology that allows them to control minds, to bend people to their will. They have no mercy. And now they've set their sights on something far more valuable than our cities. The prophecy." Alex frowned, not fully understanding. "What do you mean by prophecy?" "The prophecy says that a human will come to help us," Lyra explained. "A human with the scar, someone who carries the legacy of our ancestors. You, Alex, are the key to stopping them. But the invaders know about the prophecy. They want to capture you before you can unlock your full potential." Alex felt his stomach twist. The weight of everything he had been told was starting to sink in. He wasn't just an ordinary person caught up in a strange situation. He was the center of a battle for an entire world. The thought terrified him. "What do I have to do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "How can I stop them?" Lyra stepped closer to him, her gaze firm. "You will unlock the ancient power within you. The scar on your hand is more than just a mark. It is a key. The power that lies dormant in you has the ability to turn the tide of this war. But first, you must learn how to use it." Alex nodded, though he still wasn't sure how he could ever be ready for something so big. He had no combat training, no special skills. He was just a regular guy, and now he was expected to become a hero. They continued on, eventually reaching a small, hidden camp deep in the ruins. Lyra introduced him to a group of resistance fighters, people who had been living in hiding, fighting the invaders however they could. Alex was struck by how young many of them were. These weren't seasoned soldiers. They were civilians who had been forced into battle by the brutality of the invaders. One of the resistance leaders, a tall man named Kellen, walked up to Lyra as she arrived. He was covered in dirt, his face hardened by years of war, but there was a kindness in his eyes when he saw her. "Lyra," Kellen said, his voice deep and rough. "It's good to see you safe." Lyra nodded. "It's good to be back. This is Alex. He's the one we've been searching for." Kellen studied Alex carefully, a skeptical look crossing his face. "The human with the scar?" Alex nodded, feeling a bit uncomfortable under Kellen's gaze. "I guess that's me," he said, his voice awkward. Kellen didn't seem convinced. "We've heard the stories, but it's hard to believe. You're saying he's the one who will stop the invaders? He's just a kid." Lyra's eyes flashed with determination. "He's not just a kid. He's the key. And you'll see that once we begin training him." Kellen nodded slowly, but didn't say anything more. He turned and motioned for them to follow him into the camp. As they walked, Alex couldn't help but notice the fear and exhaustion in the faces of the people around them. They had all been fighting for so long, and the weight of their losses was evident. The rest of the day was spent in a blur. Lyra began showing Alex the basics of combat, how to handle weapons, how to defend himself, and how to think strategically. Alex was a quick learner, but the pressure of it all weighed heavily on him. He didn't feel ready for any of this. How could he possibly become the person these people were depending on? By the end of the day, as the sun set over the war-torn planet, Alex found himself standing on a hill, looking out at the distant battles. He was just a regular human, but now he was part of something much bigger. His world had changed, and there was no turning back. He turned to Lyra, who had joined him on the hill, her gaze focused on the horizon. "I don't know if I can do this," Alex admitted quietly. "I don't know if I'm the right person for this." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "You are, Alex. You may not see it now, but you have the strength inside you. And you're not alone. We'll fight together." Alex nodded, trying to believe in her words. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time since he had met Lyra, he felt a small spark of hope. The days following their arrival in the resistance camp passed in a blur of training and preparation. Alex's skills were improving slowly, but there was still so much he didn't understand. Every morning, Lyra would take him out into the fields, teaching him how to defend himself against the alien invaders. She was patient with him, showing him how to handle various weapons, but there was a sense of urgency in her every action. The world they lived in now was one of constant danger. They could be attacked at any moment, and the knowledge of the invaders' relentless search for Alex made everything more complicated. Alex felt the weight of it all pressing down on him. Every move he made, every choice he took, seemed like it could decide the fate of Lyra's people, and maybe even his own world. One evening, as they sat around a fire in the camp, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He had been feeling it for days now, a sense that not everyone in the resistance trusted him. Lyra's belief in him kept him going, but others seemed skeptical. Among them was Kellen, the resistance leader, who had been distant and cold toward him ever since their first meeting. That night, after the fire had burned low, Alex was walking near the edge of the camp when he overheard a conversation. He recognized Kellen's voice, along with the voices of a few other members of the resistance. They weren't talking to Lyra, and their words were filled with doubt. "I don't know if we can trust him," Kellen was saying, his voice low and harsh. "What if this is all a trap? What if he's leading us into the hands of the invaders?" Alex froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew they were talking about him. He didn't know why, but the thought of them plotting against him made the blood rush to his ears. "You heard the stories," another voice said, one Alex didn't recognize. "The prophecy says the chosen one will bring peace. But what if he's not the one? What if he's the one who will destroy us all?" Kellen's voice was sharp as he responded. "I can't take that risk. We've already lost too much. If there's even a chance that Alex could be leading us into a trap, I'll do what it takes to stop him." Alex's mind was reeling. He had heard bits and pieces of the prophecy, but he had never truly understood its full meaning. He knew the scar on his hand made him the chosen one. But was there more to it than that? Why were they questioning him? The weight of Kellen's words sank in, and a cold knot formed in his stomach. Was it possible? Could he really be leading them into danger? He had no answers, but the thought of betraying Lyra and her people, of being a pawn in some larger game, terrified him. In a daze, Alex stumbled back into the camp, trying to make sense of everything. He needed to find Lyra, to ask her what was really going on. But when he found her, she was talking to Kellen. Her voice calm and steady. "Lyra," Alex called, his voice shaky. "I need to talk to you." She turned, her eyes full of concern. "What's wrong, Alex?" I overheard something," he said, his words coming out in a rush. "Kellen and the others, they don't trust me. They think I might be a danger to all of you." Lyra's expression faltered for just a moment, but then her gaze hardened. She motioned for him to follow her, and they walked away from the campfire into the shadows. Don't listen to them, Lyra said, her voice firm. They are scared. And when people are scared, they do things they might regret. But why would they be scared of me? Alex asked, his frustration rising. I don't even know what's going on. I'm just trying to help. Lyra took a deep breath, her eyes softening as she looked at him. I never wanted you to feel like you were being used. The truth is, Alex, the prophecy isn't as clear as it seems. I told you that you were the key to saving my world, but there's more to it. Some of the prophecy says that the chosen one could bring destruction instead of salvation. Alex's heart skipped a beat. Destruction? He whispered. Lyra nodded slowly. I didn't want you to know this until you were ready, but the truth is, we've been looking for the chosen one for centuries, but there's always been a risk. The invaders know about the prophecy too, and they've been trying to find you to use you for their own gain. The power inside you, Alex, is not just a weapon for us. It's a weapon for anyone who can control it. Alex swallowed hard, his throat dry. So, I'm a weapon. Lyra looked at him, her gaze filled with guilt. Not just any weapon. You are the only one who can control the ancient power that lies dormant within you. But if you fail to harness it, the consequences could be catastrophic. He felt the weight of her words settle over him like a heavy cloak. But you trust me, right? Of course I do, Lyra replied immediately. You have to understand, Alex, this isn't just about you. It's about our survival, and I believe you're strong enough to face the truth, no matter how difficult it may be. Alex's head was spinning. He had never asked for any of this. He wasn't a warrior or a hero. He was just a man who had been thrown into a war he didn't understand. And now, he wasn't sure who he could trust anymore. As the night grew darker, Alex realized that his journey was far from over. He had no answers, no certainty about what the future held. But one thing was clear. If he was truly the chosen one, it was up to him to find a way to control the power inside him before it destroyed everything. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, pulling him from his thoughts. We will figure this out together, she said softly. You're not alone, Alex. You never were. But as Alex looked at her, he couldn't shake the feeling that the biggest battle of all was just beginning. The days following the conversation with Lyra had been filled with more training, more planning. Alex was learning to control the power within him, but each step forward felt like a battle of its own. The ancient power was unlike anything he had ever imagined, and the more he tapped into it, the more he realized how dangerous it could be. He had always been a normal guy, but now he had to become something more. Lyra had been by his side every step of the way, teaching him how to focus, how to channel the energy within him without letting it consume him. But despite her confidence in him, Alex felt like a failure. The weight of the responsibility was crushing. His mind was constantly filled with doubt, the fear that he might not be strong enough to save her world. The invaders were getting closer. Every day, more of their ships arrived in the atmosphere. More of their forces swept across the planet, leaving destruction in their wake. The resistance, though brave, was growing weaker with every battle they lost. Alex knew that time was running out. If they didn't act soon, it would be too late. One evening, after another long day of training, Lyra took Alex aside. The final battle is near, she said, her voice calm but filled with determination. We can't wait any longer. The invaders are too close, and we need to strike before they make their move. Alex nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew what she meant. It was time for him to finally use the power inside him. But the fear was overwhelming. What if he couldn't control it? What if he made things worse? You're ready, Alex, Lyra said, sensing his hesitation. I know you are. You've learned everything you need to. The final step is trusting yourself. Alex swallowed hard. But what if I fail? What if I can't stop them? Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder, her gaze steady. You won't fail. You have more strength than you realize. And you're not alone. We're all with you, Alex. The words gave him a little comfort, but the reality of the situation still loomed over him. There was no turning back now. That night, the resistance gathered in their war room, a makeshift building hidden deep within the ruins of the city. Kellen stood at the front, his eyes scanning the group of fighters, their faces filled with resolve and fear. Tonight, we fight for our future, Kellen said, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. We've lost so much, but we still have hope. We still have the chosen one. Alex's heart skipped a beat as all eyes turned to him. He had always thought of himself as an ordinary man, but here, in this room, surrounded by people who had placed their faith in him, he couldn't help but feel the weight of his role. Lyra stepped forward, her gaze locking with Alex's. "This is it, Alex," she said softly. "Everything we've worked for comes down to this. Are you ready?" He looked at her, the woman who had believed in him when no one else had. He could feel the pressure building, but for the first time he didn't feel alone. He nodded. "I'm ready." The plan was simple, but dangerous. The resistance would launch a full-scale attack on the invaders' main base, drawing their forces away from the city. While they were distracted, Alex would use the power within him to disable their weapons and defenses, giving the resistance a chance to strike the final blow. The night was dark as they made their way toward the invaders' base. Alex's heart raced with each step, but Lyra stayed close, offering him quiet encouragement. The closer they got to the base, the more the weight of the situation pressed down on Alex. The power inside him felt like a storm, swirling just beneath the surface, ready to be unleashed. As they reached the outer walls of the base, the sound of distant explosions echoed in the air. The resistance was already engaging the invaders, drawing their attention. It was time. Alex closed his eyes for a moment, focusing inward. He could feel the power inside him, a force that had been growing stronger with every passing day. But now it felt different, more intense, more urgent. It was as if the entire planet was calling to him, urging him to act. He took a deep breath and let the power flow through him. At first, it was like a current rushing through his veins, a tidal wave that threatened to overwhelm him. But then, he steadied himself, remembering Lyra's teachings. He focused, centered himself, and let the power flow from his core. The ground beneath him trembled as the power surged outward, ripping through the invaders' defenses. Weapons shorted out, shields flickered and failed, and the invaders' technology began to malfunction. Alex could feel their presence, their minds, but he blocked them out, focusing only on the task at hand. The invaders were disoriented, scrambling to regain control of their systems. The resistance took advantage of the chaos, launching an all-out attack on their enemy. Explosions lit up the sky as the two sides clashed in the darkness. But Alex didn't stop. He poured every ounce of energy he had into the fight, his body trembling with the strain. He could feel the power starting to take its toll on him, but he couldn't stop now. Suddenly, the ground beneath his feet cracked open and a massive explosion erupted from within the base. Alex had to leap to the side to avoid the blast, but his eyes never left the enemy forces. The power he had unleashed had done its job. It had disabled their weapons and defenses. The invaders were now vulnerable. Lyra appeared beside him, her face full of determination. "We've done it, Alex!" she shouted over the sounds of battle. "The way is clear. Now let's finish this." With the invaders' forces crippled, the resistance launched their final assault. The battle was fierce, but the tide had turned. The invaders were retreating, their forces shattered by the combined efforts of Alex's power and the resistance's fighters. As the last of the invaders were driven back, Alex collapsed to his knees, exhausted and drained. His body ached, his head spun, but there was a sense of peace that followed the chaos. The war was not over, but they had won a major victory. Lyra knelt beside him, her hand gently resting on his back. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it." Alex looked up at her, a tired smile spreading across his face. "I couldn't have done it without you," she smiled back, her eyes full of pride and gratitude. "You're more than just the chosen one, Alex. You're a hero." And in that moment, Alex realized something. He wasn't just a regular guy anymore. He was a part of something bigger, a part of a family, a community, a world that he was now determined to protect. The battle was over. The invaders had been pushed back, their forces scattered and defeated. The resistance had fought valiantly, but it was Alex's power, the energy within him, that had turned the tide. His strength had saved Lyra's people. And now, as the dust settled, Alex found himself standing on a battlefield that had been transformed into a scene of both victory and loss. The sky above was a strange mix of orange and purple, the remnants of the sunset hanging in the air like a promise. The once wrecked city was now a place of quiet. There were no more sounds of explosions, no more gunfire, just the steady hum of the rebuilding process. The battle had been won, but there was still so much left to do. Alex stood near the edge of the city, looking out over the horizon. He was exhausted, his body sore from the energy he had expended. His mind felt like it was floating, detached from the reality of what had just happened. He had never imagined that he would be here, standing on a world that wasn't even his own, as the one who had saved it. The weight of everything, the power inside him, the people who depended on him, the world he had fought to protect, was heavy. But it felt strangely fulfilling, too. Lyra approached him, her footsteps soft against the ground. She had a smile on her face, but it was one that spoke of both relief and sorrow. She was no longer just a stranger to him. She was someone he had fought for, someone he had come to care for in ways he hadn't expected. "You did it, Alex," she said softly, her voice warm. "We did it." Alex nodded, but his thoughts were still racing. "I never thought I could do something like this. I didn't feel like I was ready. I'm still not sure I am." Lyra placed a gentle hand on his arm, turning him to face her. "You were more than ready. You had everything inside you already. You just needed to believe in it." He looked into her eyes, the depth of her gaze comforting him in a way he couldn't describe. "I've never been a hero. I'm just a normal guy. But you believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself." "That's because you're not just a normal guy anymore," she said with a smile. "You're the one who saved us all. You're a hero, Alex, and you've earned that title." A small smile tugged at the corner of Alex's lips. It felt strange hearing those words. Hero. He had never thought of himself that way. But now, standing in the quiet aftermath of the battle, he couldn't deny the truth of them. He had changed. And in some ways, so had the world around him. They both turned to look at the horizon again, where the last of the invaders' ships were retreating into the sky. The city below, though still in ruins, felt like it had hope again. The light of the setting sun bathed everything in a soft glow, making the destruction seem less final. There was still work to be done, but the resistance had already begun rebuilding. The people of Lyra's world were strong, and with Alex's help, they would rebuild not just their homes, but their future. "We have a lot of work ahead of us," Alex said, his voice filled with determination. "But I'm ready to help. I'll stay." Lyra smiled at him. "I knew you would. You're one of us now, Alex." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. The resistance, now bolstered by their victory, began to clear the wreckage and salvage what they could. Alex worked alongside them, using the power within him to help lift heavy debris, clear pathways, and restore power to parts of the city that had been destroyed in the fighting. He still had much to learn about controlling his abilities, but with each passing day, he felt more connected to the power within him, more confident in his ability to help. As the weeks passed, the people of Lyra's world began to rebuild in earnest. The fear of the invaders was gone, but the scars of the war remained. The planet, once torn apart by conflict, was slowly healing. Alex watched as people from different walks of life came together, working side by side to restore what had been lost. One evening, as the stars began to fill the sky above, Alex and Lyra sat together on a balcony overlooking the city. The air was calm, the noise of the city below distant but steady. They had been through so much together, and now, as the world around them healed, Alex couldn't help but feel a sense of peace settle over him. "You know," Alex said after a long pause, "I never expected any of this. I never thought I'd end up on another world, fighting to save it. But I'm glad I did." Lyra smiled, her hand gently brushing against his. "I'm glad you did too. You've changed everything for us. You've given us a chance to rebuild, to have a future." Alex looked out at the stars, his mind drifting back to Earth. He had never imagined he would leave his home planet, but now he couldn't imagine leaving Lyra's world. It had become a part of him, as much as Earth had been. And Lyra, she, had become someone he cared about deeply, someone who had shown him a strength he never knew he had. "I don't know what the future holds," Alex said quietly, "but I do know one thing. I want to be here, with you, helping rebuild this world. Helping you." Lyra's smile was full of warmth as she turned to face him. "And I'll be here with you." "Alex, together, we'll make this world better. We'll make sure no one has to go through what we went through." As they sat together, watching the stars above, Alex knew that this was just the beginning. The war had ended, but the journey was far from over. There was still so much to be done, so much to rebuild. But he wasn't afraid anymore. He had found his place in this world, and he had found his purpose. And with Lyra by his side, he was ready to face whatever the future held.